In August 2010, on a quiet ranch outside San Fernando, investigators stumbled onto something that stopped the country cold. Dozens of migrants had disappeared along the same stretch of road. When the bodies were finally found, the shock wasn't only the number, 72 lives gone. It was how it had been done. Nothing looked rushed. Nothing looked accidental. It didn't feel like chaos. It felt arranged. At first, authorities treated it like another cartel massacre. Mexico had seen plenty of those before. But then more graves appeared. Same region, same routes, more bodies. Entire towns began to empty out. Roads that once stayed busy went quiet. And slowly, an uncomfortable thought started to take shape. Why did this feel less like crime and more like an operation? This wasn't violence meant to settle a debt or send a warning to a rival. It was something else. A message meant to linger. A system built on fear. The group behind it was Los Zetas. And calling them a cartel only gets you halfway to the truth. Los Zetas didn't rise the way others did. They didn't rely on favors or long negotiations. They moved like a unit on deployment, taking territory, enforcing obedience, applying pressure that never really stopped. They weren't born in the streets. They were trained in barracks. And when those soldiers walked away from the uniform, they didn't just enter the underworld. They brought an entire way of thinking with them. If you're here for stories like this, the ones that dig into how power actually works beneath the surface, you might want to subscribe to Hidden Archives. Because this story isn't just about what Los Zetas did. It's about how an army without a country reshaped Mexico's underworld, and what was left behind when it collapsed. Los Zetas did not emerge from the margins of Mexican society. They came from inside the state itself. Not from the streets, not from family drug networks, but from military units trained to identify enemies and neutralize them. The figure who carried that transition was Arturo Guzman de Sena, known as Z1. He joined the Mexican army young and was selected for GEFs, an elite unit trained for counterinsurgency, intelligence gathering, and irregular warfare. The training emphasized discipline, obedience, and the ability to operate in hostile territory without hesitation. These were not police skills, they were battlefield skills. When Guzman de Sena left the army in the late 1990s, others followed. Soldiers who felt disposable inside the institution discovered that the same skills had value elsewhere. When Osiel Cardenas Guillen sought protection for the Gulf Cartel, Guzman de Sena proposed something different from a bodyguard ring. He proposed a unit, a force built with military logic, not criminal tradition. That decision created Los Zetas. Recruitment did not follow the usual cartel pattern. Los Zetas did not look for street reputation or family ties. They looked for prior combat experience, former Mexican soldiers, former Guatemalan Special Forces members shaped by Civil War violence. The requirement was simple: function under command, execute orders without debate, and accept that mistakes would not be corrected. Inside the organization, names disappeared quickly. Members were identified by codes: Z1, Z3, Z40, Z42. The numbering system was not symbolic. It enforced replaceability. If one position was lost, another filled it. Loyalty extended survival, but did not guarantee safety. This internal structure was enforced through fear. Orders were not explained. Questions were interpreted as weakness. Suspected disloyalty carried consequences that extended beyond the individual. Family ties were not protection. The purpose was clear: remove hesitation before it appeared. That discipline defined how Los Zetas fought outside. Their primary enemy was the Gulf Cartel, the very group they initially served. When Osiel Cardenas Guillen was arrested and later extradited, Los Zetas did not retreat. In 2010, they broke openly and launched a territorial war across northeastern Mexico. The conflict centered on Tamaulipas, particularly Nuevo Laredo, Reynosa, and the border corridor known as La Frontera Chica. Towns like Miguel Alemán, Ciudad Mier, Camargo, and Nueva Ciudad Guerrero became battle zones. Roads were blocked, businesses closed, entire communities emptied as fighting intensified. Control of these routes meant access to trafficking corridors, extortion networks, and cross-border movement. Los Zetas expanded beyond Tamaulipas into Nuevo León, Coahuila, and Veracruz. Monterrey became a strategic prize, not just for trafficking, but for economic leverage. Veracruz offered ports. Nuevo León offered industrial wealth. Control was established through occupation. Local police forces were infiltrated or replaced. Municipal authorities were coerced. Revenue flowed upward. Unlike traditional cartels, Los Zetas did not rely primarily on drug trafficking. Cocaine and marijuana mattered, but they were only part of a broader system. Extortion became routine. Businesses paid to operate. Migrants paid to cross. Fuel theft, human smuggling, and forced labor filled the gaps. Money followed control. Control did not follow money. Violence enforced that system. In San Fernando, migrants who refused to work for the organization were killed. 72 were found in 2010. In 2011, mass graves revealed nearly 200 more victims. These were not spontaneous acts. They were warnings. Resistance would not be negotiated. The same logic appeared in Allende in 2011. After Los Zetas suspected cooperation with U.S. authorities, they did not target individuals. They punished the town. Homes were destroyed. Families disappeared. One accusation was enough. Later that year, the group crossed a line other cartels avoided. In 2011, Jaime Zapata, a U.S. federal agent, was killed during an ambush in San Luis Potosí. From that moment on, Los Zetas were no longer just a cartel. They were treated as a security threat. The same year showed how fear functioned as economic policy. In Monterrey, the Casino Royale was attacked after refusing to pay extortion fees. 52 people died. The message was simple. Economic defiance carried collective consequences. In 2012, the message repeated itself in Cadereyta Jimenez, where bodies were left in public view along a major highway. There was no attempt at concealment. Visibility was the point. The system Los Zetas built was designed to survive losses. Leaders were replaceable. Numbers could be reassigned. But even the most rigid structure still depends on its architects. The first of them was Z1. In November 2002, Arturo Guzman de Chena was located in Matamoros, Tamaulipas. Mexican soldiers surrounded the area. A brief confrontation followed. Z1 was shot and killed. There was no escape and no mythology attached to the moment. The state eliminated one of its own creations. Leadership passed to Heriberto Lazcano, Z3. Under him, violence increased while control weakened. In October 2012, he was killed by Mexican forces in Coahuila. The pattern held. After Lazcano came Miguel Trevino Morales, Z40. Brutality replaced discipline. Internal fractures deepened. He was captured in 2013. His brother, Omar Trevino Morales, Z42, followed. By then, Los Zetas were no longer expanding. They were losing ground, fighting splinter groups born from their own structure. He was arrested in 2015. Every central architect met the same end. None retired. None stabilized what they inherited. What followed was fragmentation rather than succession. Cells broke away. New names appeared. Old loyalties dissolved. Groups like Cartel del Noreste and Zetas Vieja Escuela carried pieces of the structure but not its cohesion. Los Zetas proved that a cartel could be built like an army. They also proved what happens when an army has no state, no limits, and no exit. The name faded, the method stayed, and that is the file Los Zetas left behind. Los Zetas are no longer what they once were. The men who built the organization are gone. The territory they fought over has been divided. On paper, the cartel collapsed years ago, but what disappeared was the name, not the damage. Other groups paid close attention to how Los Zetas operated. Not the spectacle, but the structure. A permanent armed wing. Fighters trained to hold ground, not just move product. Units that answered upward, not sideways. That model didn't stay isolated. It spread. Groups like CJ&G leaned into military-style formations. Even older networks, including factions tied to the Sinaloa cartel, began relying more heavily on specialized enforcement units instead of loosely organized gunmen. The effect was escalation. When cartels stopped acting like trafficking networks and started acting like occupying forces, violence changed shape. It became more visible, more organized, less restrained. Entire local economies slowed or collapsed. Small businesses shut their doors, investment dried up, families left towns that no longer felt livable. Migration wasn't just northbound anymore. It was internal, quiet, and permanent. The human cost is harder to calculate, but it's there. Fear stopped being a consequence of crime and became a tool of management. Control was enforced not through agreement, but through the expectation of punishment. That shift can be traced back to Los Zetas. They didn't invent brutality. Others had done that before. What they did was systematize it. They showed that violence could be structured, delegated, and sustained, long after the men at the top were gone. Los Zetas didn't win, they didn't survive, but they changed the terrain. And that is their real legacy. Not a cartel, but a method. One that continues to shape how power is exercised in the criminal world today. Some files close when the names fade, others stay open because the pattern remains. This one ends here, its consequences do not. This is Hidden Archives.